The day Earth met aliens started like any other for Frank Miller. He stood on the bridge of the ESS Pioneer, Earth's first real starship. The year was 2157, and humans had finally figured out how to travel faster than light. Frank was a tall man with graying hair and kind eyes that had seen too much during the resource wars of the 2130s. "Captain, we're picking up a signal," said Alan West, the communications officer. His fingers moved quickly over the glowing screens. "It's not one of ours." Frank straightened his uniform. After 6 months in deep space, this was the moment they had all been waiting for. "Put it on screen." The main display flickered, and then a face appeared. At least Frank thought it was a face. It had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, skin that looked like smooth blue clay, and no visible mouth. When it spoke, the words came through the ship's translation system. "Greetings, inhabitants of Earth. I am Ambassador Zektal of the Loraxian species. On behalf of the Galactic Confederation, I welcome humanity to the stars." The bridge crew stared in silence. First contact. It was really happening. Frank found his voice. "I am Commander Frank Miller of Earth. We are honored to meet you." The alien made a gesture with long, thin fingers. "We have been observing your world for many cycles. We would like to invite you to a neutral meeting place to discuss formal relations." Within 3 days, a small team from the Pioneer was aboard, the space station Harmony. The station hung in space like a giant wheel, spinning slowly to create gravity. Frank led the Earth delegation, which included Lisa Rodriguez, Earth's diplomatic envoy. Lisa was smart and careful with her words, which made her perfect for this job. The meeting room had chairs of different shapes and sizes to fit many kinds of aliens. Frank counted 7 different species sitting around the large table. Some looked almost human, while others were so strange he couldn't tell which end was the front. Ambassador Zaktal began the meeting. "We welcome Earth to the galactic community. We must inform you that your world is classified as a Class 12 death world, the highest rating on our scale." Lisa leaned forward. "Death world? What does that mean?" A creature that looked like a tall praying mantis answered. Its voice came through a small translator box hanging from its neck. "It means your planet would kill most of us within minutes. Your gravity is crushing, your air is toxic, your temperature range is extreme, your world is filled with dangerous bacteria, and your weather can change from calm to deadly in hours." Frank laughed, then stopped when he saw no one else was laughing. "I'm sorry, but that's just normal to us." "Exactly," said Zikatal. "That is why we find your species so fascinating. No other intelligent life has evolved in such harsh conditions." Lisa smiled politely. "We didn't realize Earth was special that way. For us, it's just home." The talks continued through the day. The humans learned about the Confederation, a loose alliance of over 50 spacefaring species that had been sharing the galaxy for thousands of years. They had rules, trade agreements, and shared technology. During lunch, Lisa described her childhood, growing up in Arizona. In the summer, it would get so hot you could cook an egg on the sidewalk. And sometimes we'd get these huge dust storms that would turn the sky orange. 2 of the aliens had to leave the room, clearly upset. "Did I say something wrong?" Lisa asked Frank quietly. "I think our normal is their nightmare," Frank whispered back. After lunch, Frank shared information about Earth's history of space exploration. When he mentioned the nuclear rockets tested in the 1960s, several aliens made distressed noises. "You deliberately used atomic explosions for propulsion?" asked a small alien with green fur. "Well, yes," Frank said. "It was one way to get more thrust. We've tested all kinds of things: chemical rockets, nuclear power, ion drives." "And you tested these on your own planet?" The green alien's fur stood straight up. "Of course. Where else would we test them?" Frank was confused by their reaction. The aliens called for a short break. Frank could see them talking among themselves, making rapid gestures. "I think we scared them," Lisa said. When they returned, Ambassador Zakatal seemed more formal. "We wish to offer Earth membership in the Confederation, but there will be certain restrictions." "What kind of restrictions?" Lisa asked. Access to certain technologies will be limited until we better understand your species' approach to safety, said the mantis-like alien. Your casual relationship with danger concerns us. Frank tried to explain. We're careful. We have safety. Procedures. You swim in your oceans, interrupted Zikatal. Oceans filled with creatures that can kill you. You climb mountains for fun. You jump out of flying machines with cloth devices to slow your fall. Parachuting? Frank asked. That's just a sport. It would be considered insanity among most Confederation species, Zikatal replied. The meeting ended with a tentative agreement. Earth would be welcomed into the galactic community, but under careful watch. The aliens clearly thought humans were either incredibly brave or completely crazy. Maybe both. As they walked back to their shuttle, Lisa said, I think we need to be careful what we tell them about Earth. They seem pretty jumpy. Frank nodded. Agreed. No more stories about extreme sports or survival shows. He paused. Should we tell them about our history of nuclear weapons testing? Lisa's eyes widened. Definitely not. They'd probably ban us from the galaxy. Frank laughed, but he was only half joking. They had found their place among the stars, but they were clearly the dangerous newcomers that everyone would watch closely. As the shuttle departed from Harmony Station, Frank looked back at the gathering of alien ships. For the first time, he saw Earth through outside eyes, not as just the human homeworld, but as a brutal training ground that had created a species tough enough to thrive where others would quickly die. Deathworlders, he said quietly to himself. I guess that's us now. The shuttle turned toward the Pioneer, and Frank wondered what the future would hold for humanity among the stars. Whatever came next, it was clear the aliens had never met anyone quite like humans before. And they were clearly terrified by what they saw. First contact had been made, but understanding each other would take much longer. 3 years had passed since first contact. Earth now had trading posts with several alien species and had gained access to new technologies. Spaceships came and went from the new orbital station above Earth. Humans were excited about joining the galaxy, but the aliens still watched them with caution. Greg Wilson sat in his office at NASA headquarters. He was the director of extraterrestrial mining operations, a new job created after humans learned that certain rare metals were common on other planets. Greg was a practical man who liked to solve problems directly. Today, he was finishing a proposal that he thought would help Earth. His assistant, Maria, knocked on his door. The Confederation representatives are here for your meeting. Greg straightened his tie. Send them in. 3 aliens entered his office. One was Counselor Venra, a methane-breathing Tholian who wore a special suit to survive in Earth's atmosphere. The suit made soft hissing sounds as it processed air. The other 2 were aides who took notes on small devices. Thank you for coming, Greg said, offering them seats designed for their body types. I've finished the proposal we discussed, and I think it solves both our problems. Benra's breathing device made a bubbling sound as he settled into his chair. We are eager to hear your ideas, Director Wilson. Greg pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's moon. As you know, Earth's population continues to grow, and our energy needs are increasing. Your people have been hesitant to share your advanced power technology because of safety concerns. Yes, Venra agreed. Your planet's history with energy production has been concerning to the Council. Greg nodded. I understand. That's why I'm proposing we build the new fusion reactors on the moon instead. The display zoomed in to show a crater on the far side of the moon. Digital models of large domed structures appeared. We can build the reactors here, away from Earth's population. If we have a problem, it won't affect anyone, and the moon has helium-3 deposits that make it perfect for fusion. Greg smiled, proud of his solution. There was silence. Greg noticed that Venra's breathing had become faster, making his suit hiss more loudly. You want to place experimental fusion devices on your only natural satellite? The alien's voice sounded strange through the translator. Well, yeah, Greg replied with a shrug. We've been using nuclear power for centuries. This is just the next step up. Plus, if something goes wrong, it's just the moon. Just the moon, Venra rose from his seat, his three-fingered hands making agitated gestures. Your satellite stabilizes your planet's axial tilt and controls your oceanic tides. Greg frowned. We know that, but the reactors would be perfectly safe. The risk of any major damage to the moon is extremely low. Extremely low is not zero, Venra said. His aides were typing quickly on their devices. What would happen to Earth if the moon were damaged? We have contingency plans, Greg assured him. Let me call our lead scientist to explain. Karen Phillips arrived 10 minutes later. She was a brilliant physicist with curly red hair and a calm manner. Greg quickly explained the situation. I understand your concerns, Karen said to the aliens, but our moon is quite large and stable. Even in the worst-case scenario, we're talking about damage to a very small area. But what if there was catastrophic damage? Venra insisted. What would happen to Earth? Karen considered the question. Well, without the moon, our tides would be affected. The oceans would be less predictable. Our days would gradually get longer. Seasons might become more extreme over time as Earth's tilt became less stable. She continued, warming to the topic. But humans are very adaptable. We would adjust our coastal cities, develop new weather prediction models, and modify our agricultural systems. It would be a major change, but not an extinction-level event for us. The alien stared at her in horror. One of the aides dropped its device. You have actually considered how your species would survive the loss of your moon? Venra's translator couldn't hide the shock in his voice. Of course, Karen said. We plan for all possibilities, even unlikely ones. It's just good science. Greg tried to bring the meeting back on track. But none of that matters because the reactors would be completely safe. We've done all the calculations. Venra stood up. This meeting is over. The Confederation Council will need to discuss this proposal. The way he said the last word made it sound like insanity. After the aliens left, Greg turned to Karen. What just happened? Karen sighed. I think we scared them again. They seem to think we're crazy for even considering using the moon for power generation. But it makes perfect sense, Greg protested. The moon is right there, unused. It's the perfect place for the reactors. 2 days later, Greg received the official response from the Confederation Council. His request was denied. Furthermore, the Council had placed new restrictions on human access to certain technologies, particularly anything related to large-scale energy production or planetary modification. The message ended with a formal statement. The Council has determined that humanity's risk assessment protocols are incompatible with Confederation safety standards at this time. Greg showed the message to Karen in the cafeteria. She read it and frowned. They think we're reckless. We're not reckless, Greg said. We're practical, we solve problems. Karen stirred her coffee thoughtfully. Maybe to them, our practical is their reckless. We evolved on a dangerous planet, remember? What seems like an acceptable risk to us might seem insane to species from safer worlds. So what do we do now? Greg asked. We keep trying to understand each other, Karen said. And maybe we don't mention any more plans that involve doing anything to the moon. Greg nodded, but he was frustrated. Humanity had finally reached the stars, but they were being treated like children who couldn't be trusted with the good toys. What the humans didn't know was that their casual approach to planetary-scale dangers had set off alarms throughout the Confederation. That night, a secret meeting was called among certain Confederation species, and for the first time, the word containment was used in relation to humanity. The Deathworlders had proven themselves even more dangerous than feared. The question now was what to do about them. 8 months had passed since the lunar reactor plan was rejected. Strange things started happening in human space. Supply ships went missing. Communication stations stopped working for hours at a time. People reported seeing unknown ships near the edges of the solar system. Jack Reynolds sat at his desk looking at reports on his screen. Jack used to work for military intelligence before he took a job as a security consultant for Earth's government. He was a quiet man with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Something wasn't right, and he could feel it. His office door opened, and Sharon Collins walked in. Sharon was an astrophysicist who studied alien biology in her spare time. She had long, brown hair tied back in a simple ponytail and wore the blue uniform of the science division. "You wanted to see me?" she asked. Jack nodded and turned his screen so she could see it. "Look at these reports, all from the last 2 months." Sharon read through them quickly. "Missing ships, communication problems, strange sightings. You think they're connected?" "I think someone is watching us very closely," Jack said. "And I don't think they're just watching anymore." Sharon took a seat. "The Confederation?" "Some part of it, maybe." Jack pulled up more files. "I need your help. You understand alien technology better than anyone else on Earth. Can you look at these sensor readings from the edge of our system?" Sharon studied the data for a long time. Her eyes widened. "These energy signatures, they're similar to Tholian ships, but they're trying to hide them." Jack sat back in his chair. "So I was right. They are spying on us." "But why?" Sharon asked. "We haven't broken any Confederation rules." "Not yet," Jack said. "But maybe they think we will." For the next week, Jack and Sharon worked together. They collected more data, interviewed people who had seen strange things, and studied Confederation communications that Earth was allowed to access. They worked late one night in Jack's office. The building was mostly empty. Sharon was translating a message they had found hidden in regular Confederation transmissions. "I've got it," she finally said. "It's not good, Jack." She showed him the translation on her tablet. Jack read it slowly, his face growing more serious. "The Deathworlders must be contained before they acquire gravitic manipulation technology," he read aloud. "They cannot be trusted with tools that could affect planetary bodies." "There's more," Sharon said, scrolling down. "Look at this section." Jack continued reading. "The humans' casual consideration of using their moon as an energy source demonstrates their fundamental instability. They represent an unpredictable extinction-level threat to multiple Confederation species. They're afraid of us," Sharon said quietly. "Not just afraid," Jack corrected her. "They're terrified. And people who are terrified do dangerous things." Sharon pointed to another part of the message. "This is the worst part. It mentions a group called the Nix Collective. They're pushing for preventive action against Earth." Preventive action? Jack didn't like the sound of that. "We need to take this to the President." President Diane Foster listened carefully as Jack and Sharon explained what they had found. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and a reputation for staying calm in a crisis. Right now, she looked very concerned. "You're telling me that parts of the Confederation are planning to take action against Earth because they think we're too dangerous?" she asked. "Yes, Madam President," Jack replied. "The evidence suggests they've been interfering with our ships and communications for months. It might be testing our defenses or simply trying to slow down our technological progress." Sharon added, "The key issue seems to be our proposal to build fusion reactors on the moon. To us, it was a practical solution. To them, it was proof that we're willing to risk our entire planet's stability for energy production." The president walked to the window and looked out at the night sky. "And now they're discussing some kind of preventive action. What do you think that means?" Jack hesitated before answering. "At minimum, they might try to restrict our space travel or cut us off from Confederation knowledge. At worst, they might consider more direct action to ensure we don't become a greater threat." "You mean an attack?" The president's voice was steady. "It's possible," Jack admitted. "The evidence suggests the Nix Collective is a highly advanced group within the Confederation. They might have technology we can't defend against." "President, Foster turned back to face them. "So what do you recommend?" "We have 2 options," Jack said. "We can try diplomatic channels, tell the Confederation what we've discovered, and try to resolve this through talking. Or, the president prompted. "Or we can send a message they can't ignore," Jack finished. "Show them that threatening Earth is a bad idea." Sharon looked uncomfortable. "Jack, we can't fight the entire Confederation. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours in some areas." "I'm not suggesting we fight them," Jack said. "I'm suggesting we use their fear against them." President Foster looked thoughtful. Explain. They think we're crazy enough to blow up our own moon for power, Jack said. Let's show them what we'd be willing to do if someone threatened our planet. The president's eyes narrowed. That sounds dangerous, Mr. Reynolds. Not as dangerous as waiting for them to decide our fate, Jack argued. We need to force them to talk to us directly about these concerns, not plot behind our backs. The room fell silent as President Foster considered the options. Finally, she nodded once. Want both approaches, she decided. We'll maintain diplomatic channels and express our desire for open communication. But at the same time, I want a contingency plan. Something that will make the Confederation think twice about taking action against Earth. She looked at Sharon. Dr. Collins, I want you to work with Admiral Paul Howard from our Space Forces. Develop this message we can send. Sharon nodded, looking nervous but determined. And Jack, the president continued, keep digging. Find out everything you can about this Nix collective and their plans. As they left the president's office, Sharon turned to Jack. What exactly did you mean by using their fear against them? Jack's face was grim. If they're afraid we might damage the moon, let's show them what humans are really capable of when threatened. That sounds like a dangerous game, Sharon said quietly. It is, Jack agreed. But sometimes you need to act a little crazy to survive. In a dangerous universe. And Earth is very good at surviving. What neither of them knew was that their conversation had been recorded by hidden Confederation monitoring devices. That night, the recording was sent to the Nix Collective. The Deathworlders were becoming more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Admiral Paul Howard stood in the large underground command center, looking at the holographic display of the moon. He was a broad-shouldered man with dark skin and a serious face that rarely smiled. Today, he was not smiling at all. Operation Moonshot, he said to the small group gathered around him. That's what we're calling this plan. Sharon Collins stood next to him, along with Nancy Mitchell, Earth's chief engineer. Nancy was a brilliant woman with short blonde hair and hands that were always in motion when she talked about her work. If they're scared of us potentially damaging the moon, Admiral Howard continued, let's show them what we could really do if we wanted to. You want to damage the moon? Sharon asked, alarmed. No, Howard shook his head. We want them to think we might. There's a difference. Nancy stepped forward. I've designed a series of devices that will create impressive visual displays on the far side of the moon. They'll be loud enough to be detected by Confederation sensors, but small enough to cause no actual damage to lunar integrity. She pulled up technical diagrams on the display. They're basically specialized mining charges. Each one will be precisely calculated and publicly announced as part of a new lunar mining operation. We'll provide full technical specifications for anyone to review. So it's a bluff, Sharon said, understanding now. Exactly. Howard nodded. When their spies inevitably discover these devices, they'll think we're preparing something big. We'll use the resulting diplomatic crisis to force negotiations and bring their conspiracy out into the open. Sharon studied the plans. What happens if they don't react the way we expect? What if they attack first and ask questions later? That's why we're not actually putting anything dangerous on the moon, Nancy explained. The devices will create impressive dust plumes and light shows, visible from Earth with a telescope. Think of them as the largest fireworks display in human history. Howard added, even if the Confederation decided to destroy our devices, they couldn't claim we were doing anything truly threatening. The total impact of all charges combined would remove less lunar material than a small meteor strike. Sharon wasn't fully convinced. What does President Foster think of this plan? She approved it this morning, Howard said. She said sometimes you need to act a little crazy to be taken seriously. The next 2 weeks were busy. Under the public story of beginning lunar mining operations, Earth sent shuttles to the moon carrying equipment and personnel. The Confederation noticed the increased activity but said nothing officially. Earth's diplomatic channels remained open, but no progress was made on addressing the growing tension. Nancy worked day and night to perfect her special devices. They needed to look impressive. but cause minimal damage. She tested smaller versions in Earth's deserts, adjusting the formula each time. The key is the dust plume, she explained to Sharon during a late-night lab session. It needs to rise high enough to be seen from Earth, but not actually damage the moon's structure. And you're sure this won't cause real damage? Sharon asked. Again, Nancy nodded confidently. The moon gets hit by meteors all the time. What we're doing will have less impact than nature itself. We're just making it visible and controlled. On the far side of the moon, the installation team placed the devices in a pattern that would create a perfect arc of explosions when detonated. Each device was carefully positioned in areas that were already unstable and would eventually collapse naturally. Admiral Howard oversaw the operation from the command center on Earth. Remember, he told his team, every communication and action must seem normal. We know they're watching us. Meanwhile, Jack Reynolds continued his investigation into the Nix Collective. He discovered they were a highly advanced group within the Confederation, made up of species from older, more stable worlds. They saw themselves as protectors of galactic stability. They genuinely believe they're doing the right thing, Jack told President Foster during a secure briefing. They see us as unpredictable savages who might accidentally destroy ourselves and take others with us. All the more reason to show them we know exactly what we're doing, the president replied. The day of the first test arrived. Earth announced it would begin small-scale mining operations on the far side of the moon. The announcement included detailed technical specifications of the mining charges they would use. In the command center, Admiral Howard, Sharon, Nancy, and Jack gathered around the main display. President Foster joined them via secure video. "Link, is everything ready?" the president asked. "Yes, Madam President," Admiral Howard confirmed. "The first device is set to detonate in 5 minutes. Confederation ships have been observed moving closer to monitor our activities exactly as we expected." Sharon took a deep breath. "I hope this works." Nancy looked confident. "The math is solid. It will work." "Detonation in 30 seconds, announced a technician. "Remember," Jack said, "we're sending a message. We know you're watching us, and we want to talk." The countdown reached 0. On the display, they watched as the first explosion created a perfect, controlled plume of lunar dust. It rose high above the surface, catching the sunlight and creating a glowing cloud visible from Earth. "Dust plume height and spread exactly as calculated," Nancy reported, checking her instruments. "No damage to surrounding lunar structures." "Confederation ships are changing position," Howard noted. "They're moving to get a better view." More images appeared on the display as Earth's telescopes and satellites captured the visual effect. It was spectacular. A fountain of lunar material that seemed to hang in space before slowly beginning to settle back down. "It's beautiful," Sharon admitted, "and terrifying if you think humans are unstable," Jack added. The president nodded. "Send the diplomatic message now as planned." Admiral Howard pressed a button. "Message sent. We're asking for an emergency meeting of the Confederation Council to discuss mutual security concerns and our ongoing lunar resource development program." Within an hour, the response came. The Confederation had called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Their message was brief and direct. All lunar activities must cease immediately pending review. Jack smiled grimly. They took the bait. President Foster's expression was serious. Now we see if they're willing to talk openly about their fears or if they plan to take more direct action. "What if they do decide to take action against us?" Sharon asked. "Then we'll be ready for the next stage," Admiral Howard said. "We have 5 more devices placed around the moon, each one programmed with a different visual signature. We can create quite a show if needed." "Let's hope it doesn't come to that," the president said. "The goal is communication, not escalation." What Earth didn't know was that their definition of a small demonstration had sent shockwaves through the Confederation. To species that had evolved on peaceful, stable worlds, deliberately modifying a planetary body, even in a minor way, was almost unthinkable. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was the largest ever called. Over 200 ships surrounded Earth's solar system by the next day. The message was clear. The Deathworlders had crossed a line. Earth had wanted to get the Confederation's attention. Now they had it, along with the full force of the galactic community's fear and concern focused directly on them. The Confederation response was faster and larger than anyone on Earth had expected. 200 ships surrounded Earth's solar system within hours of the lunar explosion. An emergency session of the Galactic Council was called, with Earth ordered to attend. President Foster stood in the White House Situation Room, watching the fleet of alien ships on the large screen. She turned to Admiral Howard. "Is this more than we planned for?" she asked calmly. "Yes, Madam President," Howard admitted. "They're treating this like a major crisis. Our small demonstration seems to have hit a nerve." Jack Reynolds entered the room with Sharon Collins and Nancy Mitchell. "The Confederation has sent the details for the emergency council meeting," Jack reported. "It will happen in 6 hours on the neutral space station Harmony." President Foster nodded. "We need to be ready. This is our chance to address the conspiracy directly." "I've prepared all the evidence," Sharon said. "Everything we found about the Nix Collective and their plans against Earth." Nancy added, "I also have complete technical data on our lunar devices, proving they were safe and controlled." "Good," the President said. "Admiral Howard, prepare the rest of the devices for possible detonation, but take no action unless I give the direct order." "Yes, Madam President." 6 hours later, President Foster led the Earth delegation onto the space station Harmony. The Central Council chamber was packed with representatives from dozens of alien species. Many moved away as the humans entered, as if afraid to be too close. Grand Chancellor Devarro, a tall being with shimmering silver skin, called the session to order. His voice boomed through the chamber. "The humans have deliberately damaged their moon," he accused, pointing at the Earth delegation. "This confirms our worst fears about their instability and disregard for planetary safety." President Foster stood calmly before addressing the council. "With respect, Chancellor, we placed precisely controlled charges that removed approximately 0.01% of the moon's mass, less damage than a typical meteor impact. We have provided full technical specifications to prove it." The chamber erupted in angry voices. When they quieted, a Tholian representative spoke. "But why would you do this? Why damage your moon at all?" Jack Reynolds stepped forward with a data pad. "Because we knew that certain members of the Confederation were planning to contain or eliminate us. We needed to show you 2 things. First, that we know what you're doing, and second, what restraint actually looks like." He projected images showing the intercepted communications and evidence of the conspiracy. "The Nix Collective has been working to isolate Earth and prevent our technological development. They've interfered with our ships and communications. They've discussed taking preventive action against us." The council chamber grew quiet as the evidence was displayed. "Is this true?" Chancellor Devarro asked, turning to a group of representatives, sitting apart from the others. A member of the Nix Collective stood. She had pale blue skin and eyes that seemed to glow. "The humans are a threat to galactic stability. They casually considered using their moon as an energy source. They evolved on a world that would kill most of us in minutes. Their normal is our nightmare." "So you plan to act against them without council approval?" Devarro asked, his voice sharp. "We plan to protect the Confederation," the Nix representative replied. Karen Phillips stepped forward then. She had joined the delegation to explain the scientific aspects of the lunar demonstration. "If I may," she said, addressing the council, "what you saw as a dangerous action was actually a precisely controlled operation." She displayed maps of the lunar surface. The areas we targeted were unstable regions that would have eventually experienced natural collapse. We actually improved lunar stability while demonstrating our capabilities. She continued, "Rather than damaging our moon, we conducted a controlled release of pressure in areas that geological surveys indicated were at risk for future natural events." Admiral Howard spoke next. "If we wanted to destroy the moon, we could have. We have the technology. What we demonstrated was surgical precision, not insanity." President Foster moved to the center of the chamber. "Earth did not ask to evolve on a dangerous world, but surviving on a death world has taught us to be careful, precise, and to understand exactly how far we can safely go. She looked directly at the Nyx representatives. You threatened our species because you feared what we might do. Now you've seen what we can do, but also what we choose not to do. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then Sharon Collins spoke. We understand your fear. To us, living with danger is normal. To you, it seems reckless, but consider this. A species that survives on a death world doesn't do so by being careless. We survive by calculating risks precisely and taking only those actions that give us the best chance to continue. Chancellor Devarro consulted with his advisors before addressing the chamber again. The evidence of unsanctioned actions against Earth by the Nyx Collective is concerning, as is the humans' demonstration on their moon, regardless of how controlled it may have been. He looked at both sides. This council will need time to consider all that we have learned today. Until then, the Nyx Collective will cease all actions against Earth immediately, and Earth will halt any further lunar demonstrations or similar activities. President Foster nodded her agreement. Earth came here today seeking open communication, not conflict. We are willing to work with the Confederation to address your concerns about our approach to safety and risk. After the council session ended, the Earth delegation returned to their ship. Jack turned to President Foster. Do you think it worked? He asked. I think we got their attention, she replied. Now we need to help them understand us better. In the weeks that followed, the Confederation established a special committee to review all the evidence. The Nyx Collective's conspiracy was fully exposed. Formal apologies were issued to Earth, and a new understanding began to emerge. 3 months later, Earth signed a new treaty with the Confederation. Humanity gained full membership and a unique diplomatic status. The treaty included technology sharing agreements, but also special safety protocols that both sides agreed to follow. Greg Wilson, whose lunar reactor proposal had started the whole crisis, attended the treaty signing ceremony. He smiled as he watched aliens and humans talking together more openly than ever before. You know what's funny? He said to Karen Phillips. They're still afraid of us, but now they respect us too. Karen nodded. Sometimes you need to act like you're crazy enough to blow up the moon to make sure no one actually tries to blow up your planet. The legend of the humans who threatened to blow up their own moon to win a diplomatic standoff spread throughout the galaxy. While humanity was now respected and included in galactic affairs, other species still gave them a polite amount of space. After all, only a truly insane species would even consider using their moon as a negotiating tactic. Or perhaps a species so sane they understood precisely how to use others' perception of their insanity. The Deathworlders had earned their place among the stars, not despite their dangerous home world, but because of the unique strengths it had given them.